Today, we look at the first couple of weeks of the Eagles pre-season on the back of the biggest transition in club history. And we take a look at positions for next season and how they're going to look in round one. Well, welcome to the West Sports Show, December edition, and we're still talking footy. I am Glen Quartermain. With me is Mitchell Woodcock. Mitch, we're into December. Of course, the AFL teams are back for their pre-Christmas training. The Eagles have been back for a couple of weeks with their very early draft picks. What have you seen so far of those early draft picks, and which one of them do you think can force their way into the team for round one?
Well, Quarters, I can tell you early on, and good afternoon and hello to everybody listening. Willem Duursma in his press conference last week said it was a bit hot over here. I can tell you right now, they got a rude shock on Monday morning when it hit 33 degrees by about 10 o'clock in the morning at Mineral Resources Park, and they were very, very warm, some of these young men. But West Coast, I think I counted today, Quarters, 21 changes since the start of the 2024 season. So that's how much they've overhauled this list.
This is the biggest transition in this club's history.
It's one of the biggest transitions in a club's history, I'd like to think, Quarters. The rebuild is firmly underway now, which I think is a positive for West Coast. So we look at the draftees. Out of all of them that's going to play round one, I think the only one at this stage I can probably lock is Willem Duursma. I expect him to be in that side. Interestingly, Quarters on Monday was running around in the midfield. So had spent some time on our good friend Harley Reid, who his brother Zane played a lot of junior football with, and spent some time on Elliot Yeo as well. But is a completely different player to those two. His athletic traits are just unreal. They are something that you don't see in a young man. He wants to play like Marcus Bontempelli. That's a long bow to draw. It's a long thing to, it's a champion of the game. But I can see the similarities. For a 193 centimetre midfielder, he's got very long limbs, Quarters, like those Bontempelli limbs, but he's strong, he's athletic, he jumps, he runs very fluently, he covers the ground well, and he's got excellent skills. I can see him really playing high half forward, wing, midfield. I can see him really running through and having a variety of positions and finding a way to settle. But I know West Coast fans, they're going to be jumping up and down. What about the man known as CDT, Cooper Duff-Tytler? I'd love to see him playing round one. I just don't think he does. I think Ruckman take time, Quarters. Nick Naitanui didn't play round one. We know that. So I'd like to see it. I think he will play next year. I just don't see him playing round one, and I don't see him playing as a ruck forward early on. I see him playing as that third forward.
What traits do we see in Cooper Duff-Tytler early? So we're talking about a mobile ruckman with an intercept sort of player who can get across the half-back line as well, or is he more the mobile ruckman who's going to go forward and cause some damage?
He's the mobile ruckman who's going to go forward and cause some damage. He's been playing as that third tall forward at the moment in a bit of match simulation drills. I'm hesitant to call it match sim fully, but it's those drills and ball movement drills. He's a natural forward. It's an incredible thing to watch. His skills below his knees are fantastic. His kicking is great. His vision is excellent. He's a natural footballer at 201 centimetres. It's quite incredible. It's a bit scary to watch what he can do. And don't forget, he actually hasn't had a full preseason yet, Quarters. He's played basketball until last year. So this is his first or second full preseason.
Probably more reason why he probably doesn't get in round one next year. Yeah. Unless he forces their hand. It's a size thing. Like I said, we didn't see Nick Naitanui do it, albeit I think he's a bit stronger than Nick Naitanui at the same age. But, he's learning under Nick Nat, and there's a few options. We'll talk about the team a bit later in that forward ruck role. But I really like the way he goes about it. The other one, Josh Lindsay, 19. I can see him playing again next year as well. I really like the way he moves off halfback. He's a lethal left foot kick. But again, West Coast have plenty of halfbacks, so there's going to be a bit of issue there. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't play at all during the year. Wouldn't surprise me if he debuts very quickly. Well, let's split the team up. Let's go to this back six straight away. So let's just say in a perfect world, back six, starting six next year. Ginbey, Harry Edwards, Starcevic. Baker, Young, that's Tyler Young from Richmond, and Duggan. With apologies to Brady Hoff, is that the back six we're looking at the moment?
I think so. So interestingly, Liam Baker, after the Club Champion Award in the press conference, said to me that he really wants to settle in a position. He started at half-back, and then in round two, when Jack Graham went out, he was in the midfield. He's played half-forward, he played wing. He played everywhere just about except for ruck. I think he wants to settle in a position. I think half-back's where they kind of like him. I find this position very interesting, Quarters, because there's some real movement they can do here. So Liam Duggan's the co-captain and incumbent and deserves to be by all rights. And I'm really against this narrative of Liam Duggan shouldn't be captain. If he doesn't want to be captain, that's fine. but I think he's done enough to, justify his on-field leadership. Those two are going to start at halfback, you'd think, but Starcevic has moved over here
to be a mid,
or even to play that high halfback role. So, and then you got Hoff, who's tempted into the midfield, and is probably going to go back to defence from what I've seen at training. So I expect him to be back there as well, but he's going to want to be a bit more attacking as well. Just this dynamic is interesting.
Can I throw two more at you? So Tom McCarthy, beautiful user of the footy, going to come up the ground. Is it in the midfield or is it on a wing? And the other one I have some queries on is Elliot Yeo. Hasn't played a lot of footy, is an All-Australian midfielder, is an All-Australian defender. Would it be better for the Eagles to try and slot him in at half-back while he gets the confidence back in his body rather than dump the load of being a midfielder on him and an inside midfielder at that?
So I'll start with the Tom McCarthy question. And from what I've seen at training, he's their best runner at the moment, if not one of their best runners. Him and Hamish Davis are just going toe for toe. It's incredible to watch. And I'll get to Hamish a bit later. But I really like the way Tom McCarthy's moving. Finished the year in the midfield. I think that's where he's going to start by the looks of it. He's going to add that raw running power out of there. It'll complement the likes of Harley and Elijah. So I think that's where we're going to see Tom start. But there's a luxury there for West Coast, so they can move him out to a wing. They can move him to a halfback. They can even move him to a half forward and push him up. There's different ways they can do this. So I'm curious to see. The Elliot Yeo, I like the idea. I think they really liked the Elliot Yeo-Harley Reid combination from 2 years ago, and I think they felt they got the best out of Harley at that point. Whereas Harley last year at times seemed to be, and I've said this multiple occasions, is trying to do too much, and I think it got in his head a little bit. I think he tried to be the man, and he went a bit too far with it and couldn't execute. Whereas if Elliot's in there, I think it allows him to he'll be the man, but he can also feel like he doesn't have to be all the time.
By the way, as talented as Harley is, it's very hard to be the man in your second year of AFL.
Exactly. And I think he tried to be, and I think it's very admirable what he did. But I think Elliot's presence in there allows him to be a bit more comfortable. It'll allow Elijah Hewitt to be comfortable. It'll even allow Tom McCarthy to be comfortable. So I predict that Elliot, from what I've seen at training, will definitely be in that midfield mix.
So let's go through the midfield. So let's start with the wing. So Bo Allen, Hutchinson, Hamish Davis, you mentioned before. Harvey Johnson has bulked up. Are they the most likely sort of four candidates to be on the wings?
Yeah, so we spoke about the half-back line before. Bo Allen was kind of touted there, a bit of midfield when he was at Peel Thunder, had those shocking injury and illness troubles last year, then the suspension as well in his first game. He's been touted for a role in the wing by the looks of what I've seen at pre-season training. He's added a bit of running power to him, but I've been ultra impressive with Hamish Davis. On Monday, I watched him run, and in some match simulation and groundwork and ball movement, he just ran ragged. He ran blokes ragged. It was impressive. And I really like the way he goes about it. Still needs to put a bit of size on.
And you also still need to use the footy.
Yes, but he's a second-year Eagle. He turns left. I like the way he does things. We've seen him at the AFL level a couple of times last year, and I thought he really grew as a player last year. So I think he's a really exciting prospect for West Coast. Don't forget, they got him very late in the draft, not this one, but the one before, and he was probably the most highly touted West Australian prospect at that time. So I really like the way he's moving about it. Hutchinson finished on the wing at the end of last season after starting in the midfield a little bit. I think that's where he's going to end up as well. So I'd predict early on that Bo Allen and Hutchinson right now would be the starting wings. But I'd say watch out for Hamish Davis. And as you mentioned, Harvey Johnston, put a little bit of muscle. I think
Dewar we haven't mentioned. So half-back, there was talk of him going to half-back. He has played on the wing.
Yeah, he's been moving a bit more half-forward at the moment. So I think they're trying to balance these guys out. These are great problems to have. And this is caught as where West Coast are in this unique position where they're not going to be competitive for finals, I don't think, next year unless something really shocking happens. But spots in that team are going to be competitive for two reasons. One is, what's McCoulter going to do? Is he going to back the veterans in no matter what? Or is he going to back them in early but say, hey, there's a bunch of talented kids coming through. If your form fades, these guys are coming in. We saw him do it with Tim Kelly and Tom Cole last year. He's happy to drop blokes. So this is where those guys, like I said, Liam Duggan's an incumbent. Jack Graham at half forward, who's going to, I think, will push up to be that extra midfielder. He's another one where a guy like a Dewar or a Tom Gross or an Elijah Hewitt can really put that pressure on him. So I think that's really where the selection for West Coast intrigues me is that, they're going to have this mixture of rebuild as well as, we've got some experienced guys that we're going to need around.
So you mentioned Hewitt. So we've got, so Harley Reid, Yeo, Elijah Hewitt, Graham pushing up as the extra mid. For me, if you've got Harley and a fit Yeo in that team, I think Tim Kelly, who we haven't really spoken about yet, can be the best version of Tim Kelly
in that midfield if you've got those other inside grunt players in there.
And I'm really impressed with Tim Kelly's running capacity early on this preseason. He's come back really fit and lean. Obviously, everybody at this time of the year looks pretty good, but I like the way he's moving. And like you said, it takes that, Elliot Yeo, I mentioned before who he eases the pressure on. He eases the pressure on Tim Kelly enormously. And Tim Kelly can complement that area. Him and Tom McCarthy can almost wax as that outside runners. I think there's another little say in Tim Kelly's career before it's all said and done.
Let's hope so. Love watching him go about his business. The Rucks. So Matt Flynn, Bailey Williams, who I think will benefit from the change in ruck rules. So not grappling across the line anymore. It will certainly the centre ball ups. Hard to get used to that, isn't it? Not bounce. Centre ball ups will help the more athletic ruckman, whereas the Flynn's, the solid hold your ground type ruckman will still be required around the ground. We mentioned Cooper Duff-Tytler before, but now we go to 23 players, so 5 on the bench. Do you think that mounts a case now where you can play Bailey Williams?
I think it does.
And Matt Flynn in the same team.
I think it does, but this whole ruck forward situation fascinates me at West Coast. So I'm going to put this in the group of Bailey Williams is competing right now, and I'm not sure what the injury is. I'm trying to figure this out, but he's not training at the moment. He's barely walking laps. Harry Barnett, the young man in his last year of his contract, heading into his 5th year, I believe, or 4th year, sorry. He's coming back from a PCL, so he's a fair way behind. Archer Reed and Jack Williams are training very strongly, and they are training with the Rucks when they get a chance.
Bit of depth there in that forward line now for key positions.
Yep. I thought Archer Reed looked at his best when he was that forward ruck.
Yes,
I thought he
definitely
looked better when he got into the game. When he played as a sole forward, I think he really struggled to find a way to consistently be in the contest, and that's going to come with maturity. I actually think long term he's a tall forward.
Well, I think Shanahan's gone past him in terms of being consistently in the contest in that forward line. He's just a lock for centre half forward.
He is. But I think Archer Reed one day will be a serious forward by himself. But I like the fact that he's got that pinch hittable ability. And then Jack Williams has come back very lean. Jack Williams is an excellent trainer.
Beautiful mark.
Speaking to Jake Waterman today, he just said, I love what Jack Williams does. It's very simple, but it's effective. And he loves that area of it. So there's these 3 guys, and then you had Cooper Duff-Tytler fighting in it for 4. So Matt Flynn's the number 1 ruckman at the moment. Again, come back looking very good. I like the way he finished the year last year. I thought his leadership was excellent. I thought the way he moved around the ground was good. But there's a little bit of contest there in this position, and I think Andrew McCoulter will be buoyed by this, albeit outside of injury.
So the forward 6. So let's say Duursma and Graham go to the flanks. Both can sort of play as high midfielders.
Yep.
Shanahan, I think, has earned the right to be the key prong at centre forward. Cripps, the veteran. Waterman, a fit Waterman, can't wait to see that. And probably Owies in a pocket as the small forward. Keeping in mind Archer Reed, Jack Williams could be in that 23 as well to give them some depth.
And Noah Long as well, who, had a real injury couple of years, I think, in confidence battered last year. I think he's around the mark too.
And the 2 players we haven't mentioned, so SSP players, but Dev Robinson, who comes over from Brisbane, a West Australian.
Yep.
Darren Glass's nephew. Can fill a role too, particularly as a run-with player, but he and Finn McRae, who's come across from Collingwood, had an injury-interrupted year last year. Where do you see those 2 fitting in?
Well, then there's Harry Schoenberg from Adelaide as well. I really like all 3 of these guys. It really adds 2 elements, Quarters. It's already made pressure on the midfield of West Coast. So, we spoke highly about Elliot Yeo and Tim Kelly, but if they don't perform, there's guys there to really push them out. They're desperate. Those 3 are coming over.
That's where they need to be.
But those 3 are coming over here on a second chance. They've got this is probably it for them. If they don't make it, they're done.
So you need a bit of dog hunger.
So they're
in there,
coming.
don't you? There's your dog hunger.
Exactly. But the other thing I like about it, Quarters.
Not calling them dogs. I'm saying they've got dog hunger.
But what I like about it, Quarters, you add them to their waffle side, and all of a sudden their waffle side goes from being a 2-3 win side to maybe a 10 win side. And all of a sudden guys like Tom Gross aren't the main midfielder like he was last year. He's maybe the 3rd midfielder. So his development comes along, Quarters. All of a sudden, Josh Lindsay's development, if Finn McRae's playing across halfback or something, his development helps out. They need this ability, to... Fred Rodriguez is another one. They can't have these 18, 19-year-olds being the main men against the likes of Charlie Constables and Milan Murdochs and Bailey Rogers in the waffle who, aren't AFL players, but they're good footballers and they're big bodies at 26, 28. You can't have that. Whereas you've got a Dev Robertson who's 24, who's been in the system for 6 or 7 years, has got nearly 50 games under his belt. and he's standing there next to Tom Gross.
Has
Perth are worried about him.
And it has a bit to prove.
Yeah, so I like those moves because I think it'll help development. So while those 4 rookie spots that the Eagles got was so vital to add some talent to the list, I think it's so vital to help the talent they've already got on there because I think it adds leadership in areas they just lacked it severely in the last few years.
So let's think optimistically. What do you think a top-end win-loss ratio for the Eagles can be next year? Because I'm thinking maybe around 6-7 wins.
Yeah, I'm going to go half a dozen, but I think it's really important that – so West Coast were better this year than they were last year despite losing more games. I'm confident in saying that.
Well, the absolute shellackings weren't consistently there.
There weren't the 100-point losses week in, week out.
That's right.
The game style was going well. And the direction of the club, there is a linear rebuild path now. You can see it. You can see, I know Matt Clark has copped a lot of criticism for some moves he's made, but you can see what they're doing. You can see what Andrew McQualter likes. Sam Allen, who they've brought in, who is another draftee called as pick number 29, I don't think he plays at all next year. He's coming back from an ACL. I think at best they get half a dozen, maybe 10 waffle games into him. But he's an athletic wingman who they really rated highly, who, did his ACL earlier this year. They've brought him in because that's the direction they want. They want that speed and athleticism, those modern-day footballers. Willem Duursma is a modern-day footballer. Like I said, 193-centimetre midfielder. Cooper Duff-Tytler is a modern-day ruckman. You can see the direction that they're going in now. They're getting a balance to this list, and I think it's a real promising shift. There's going to be tough times ahead. I guarantee you next year there'll be a month where there is 3 or 4 big losses, including one at home and one away, where everybody will go, geez, we're down in the doldrums. But I guarantee you there's going to be some performances against some very good sides where their youth and optimism will shine through and where they'll actually look like they're taking steps.
As there was in drips and drabs this year or last season, nearly knocked off Brisbane, for example, very early in the piece. So it's there, yeah.
If they get 4 wins next year, but they compete in half a dozen games away from home or at home against very top sides, Andrew McQualter can be buoyed by that. If his game plan is there, he can be buoyed by that. And then the board can be buoyed by that. Because don't forget, Andrew McQualter signed only a 3-year deal when he came across. So by middle of next year, the Eagles really do have to make a decision if he's the man. We've seen it with Richmond and Adamuzze. They've just locked him away long term. I love that move. Because they've said to Adamuzze, you're doing a fantastic job. We're backing you. McQualter's got the similar mission. If this time next year he's not re-signed beyond the year after, there's questions about where he's going. But I honestly think with the linear path they're on, if their progression keeps naturally, by the middle of next year, they could have decided well and truly that he's the man to take them forward.
Mitch, let's talk AFLW. And this AFLW update is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. Mitch,
Kanga.
As we expected, North Melbourne 9-2-56 defeated Brisbane 2-4-16. 27 consecutive wins to the Kangaroos. That's a 40-point win over Brisbane. Mind you, Brisbane has played in 7 grand finals out of a possible 9, had 9 wins in a row entering the grand final. So they haven't beat just a Mickey Mouse team. They've beaten a bloody good team. Well done to Eilish Sharon. 2 goals, 12 votes, maximum votes for best on ground. Ash Riddell was fantastic. Jazzy Gardner, who kicked the first goal in AFLW history. I think she was with Collingwood back then in 2017. 28 touches and a goal in this grand final. Amazing effort. Backed up solidly by defenders. Emma Kearney, 8 times All-Australian Emma Kearney, just keeps on keeping on. Libby Birch and Jenna Bruton kicked 3 goals. Brisbane, Isabel Dawes, the only Lion to get in amongst the votes. I think she got 1 vote, but really kicked the first goal 2 minutes in, did not kick a goal again until 7 minutes into the third quarter, and by which stage you just knew it was over. I like the comments of Jazzy Garner in the lead-up. Look, they're just going to have to all catch us, and I think on that performance there's a fair bit of catching to do.
100%. We throw the term dynasty around a lot. This is what it is. It's a fantastic credit to North Melbourne, a credit to Brisbane as well. 2 fantastic programs. The clubs have embraced them and embraced the women's game, and that's what happens. Freo did it, and they've now going through a rebuild, and West Coast have really done it under Daisy Pearce, so loving the way it is. And also, just quickly, congratulations to former West Coast and Gold Coast midfielder Ryan Davis, just been announced as Adelaide's AFLW coach.
Well done.
Good Swan Districts boy. So, but it's fantastic to see the game growing. It was fantastic to see Icon Park pumping. I hope next year it's at a really strong venue. And you know what? I hope WA government next year put their hand up and say we'll put it on here at Optus Stadium.
The grand final?
Yep, go for it.
Either that or Marvel, but
do something with it though. And
12,000 there. It was pretty much a full
bit
house.
of an awkward time. I like the time a bit later. Curious to see what they do with the AFLW season.
Yeah, so do I.
Get a bit worried about footy fatigue at this time of the year,
you do.
Especially, but also a bit of an outlier with the Ashes on as well, which obviously you can get all the news through thewest.com.au. But, it's a tough one for them, but fantastic grand final. Great to see. And I look forward to next season already.
Mitch, as usual, it's been a pleasure. You've been listening to the West Sports Show. And remember, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music. Mitchell, we will talk soon.
Thanks, Quarters.